Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Freshly Pressed. Today we have with us Will Robson, one of Marvel and DC's artists who has recently gone indie and with the new project. Welcome to the show, Will.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm looking forward to chatting with you.
Awesome. Will, can you tell us a bit about yourself and how you got into comics in the first place?
Well, I got into just loving comics as a kid. I think I was more into the TV shows at first, like Spider-Man the animated series, Batman the animated series, and then when I moved to America when I was around seven-ish, there was a store called Jambalaya, which was like trading cards and comics and stuff like that. And I saw all these comics, and I started picking them up, like John Romita Jr. on Spider Man and Tom McFarlane on Spider Man, and I loved Tom McFarlane as a kid. And then I always loved comics, and then when I was going to university in this country, I kind of was out of comics, but then there was a comic book store in my university town, and I saw it was the New 52 at the time, and I saw Greg Capullo on Batman. I was like, this is the best art I've ever seen. I love it so much that I was like, do you know what? I'm going to try and become a comic book artist. I want to do what this guy's doing because I think he's just making the best art in the world. So knuckled down for like 3 years in the independent scene, making books and drawing. And then I basically broke into Marvel, which was great. And
Wow.
I worked really hard to get there, and they were at a convention in England, and I handed in my portfolio, and I got to sit down with CB Cebulski, who at the time wasn't the editor in chief; he was more like the talent manager. Yeah, and then my career kind of snowballed from there, where I was doing great like Avengers and Spider Man and Deadpool, and then I went over and worked with my hero Tom McFarlane on Spawn Kills Spawn,
Wow.
which was just awesome. Like he called me up on the phone to talk about like the story, and it was just like the best experience of my life. Like having my hero call me on the phone, like seeing my phone being like saying Tom McFarlane, crazy, absolutely crazy. And he inked some of my pencils and stuff. Like yeah,
Wow.
so that was like the biggest thing that's ever happened for me personally in my career. Oh, and also he made toys out of our little creations.
Wow.
I'll
That's
never
amazing.
forget that. So I love that so much. Yeah, and then I got some work with DC, and I drew some Batman, some Joker. The Batman universe is probably my favorite superhero universe in comics. So working on that was just the best. And this whole time while I've been drawing, my true passion I kind of realized as I was going was writing. So I
Mm.
started putting together my own comic book, which was Outbreaks, and I was having an artist draw it in the background, and I was paying for them to draw it. But then COVID came, and this, that, and the other, and I couldn't finance the book anymore. And like 6 years had passed where I hadn't been putting this book together, and I was like, all right, I love Comics Tribe. I've been listening to the Comics Launch podcast, which is all about how to make your own Kickstarter and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I took all of their advice and I launched my first one back in March, and we got overfunded, which is amazing. So now I'm back for issue 2 of my little zombie comic Outbreaks, which I have right here, which is I love. It's in print and I love it. Like just holding
That's
it like a
so
physical
good.
copy. So yeah, issue 2 is coming September 1st, which I'm really excited about.
So it says Black Mirror meets Walking Dead. What does that mean?
So yeah, Black Mirror meets The Walking Dead. That means when you watch a show like Black Mirror, it's basically like an anthology series where it's a bunch of different stories that all have the same theme of technology in them, but every story is completely different and they're not attached.
Yeah.
So mine's the same style where it's a bunch of different stories, none of them are attached, but all the theme is zombies, right? So every story
Right.
in the book is just different zombie stories, and we're not doing your basic survival story like that's been done to death. and The Walking Dead did that, and they did that incredibly. So there's no need for another basic survival story in the zombie universe. This is a fun, different take. Like I have a superhero noir zombie story in it where basically someone gets zombie superpowers. Another story that's like a dark comedy about two guys locked in the drunk tank at the beginning of the zombie apocalypse, and they got to figure out how to get out of their jail cell or be left for dead. And then in the future, we're going to have a courtroom drama zombie story, and the
Wow.
zombie apocalypse from the point of view of a dog, and like it's just like loads of fun stuff down the pipeline that I'm really looking forward to. So, yeah, I mean, I'm a huge zombie fan. I've loved zombies ever since I was a kid, and I saw Michael Jackson's Thriller. And while everyone
Mm.
else was enjoying the zombies dancing, I found it to be frightening. And then I also was a huge Resident Evil fan as a kid on PlayStation 1. And the first three of those games are near and dear to my heart and made me petrified of the undead. So I've always taken what I fear and try and channel it into my creativity.
That's amazing. That's really good. One of my favorite zombie movies is actually 28 Days Later, which is really like, I think it's very atmospheric and it's really well done as well.
Yeah, I rewatched that recently. Yeah, with Cillian Murphy and everything, it is a good film. I mean, that's running zombies. I find the slow moving zombies much scarier because it's like what Edgar Wright said. They're like lava. It's like they're gonna get you, but they're gonna get you eventually. And when they do, it's gonna be really painful. So
Yeah.
I've always found
Well,
them more scary.
Shaun of the Dead is one of the best zombie movies ever made as well.
100%. My personal favorite zombie movie, though, is a movie called Day of the Dead by George A. Romero, who is the guy who practically invented the modern
Invented it.
version of the
Yep.
zombie. And
Yeah.
that movie is great. A lot of people will give it flack because they think it's a bit overacted, because it's acted by a bunch of theatrical people. But I think it's great, and the effects in it are great. I mean, one of the effects guys in that movie ended up Greg Nicotero ended up running the Walking Dead show. So there's a lot of like hidden talent in that movie. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think I've brought it up a few times before. But there's more recently, I watched a movie called A Cut of the Dead. I don't know if you have seen it.
One
It's
Cut of the
Japanese.
Dead, yeah.
One Cut of the Dead is, yeah, it's so well done. Yeah, it just turns the whole genre on its head, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely a fun ride. I remember when I was watching it first, I was like, "What am I watching?" And then I was like, "Oh, I get it now." Like it took me a long time to finally like get into it.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's really really good. So, tell us a bit more about like the kind of stories that you're writing, especially like coming from issue one. So, what stuff that you did? What was the stuff that you did in issue one, and what can people expect new in issue two?
So the whole book there is a host in our book, kind of like Creep Show or something like that, or Elvira, those type of things. Because I do love the old horror EC comics and that type of stuff. So the host of our book is called the Maitre Z, and he runs his own movie theater in the zombie apocalypse. And his customers are zombies, essentially, and us, the reader, as well. So we basically go into the Outbreaks movie theater. We sit down with a bunch of zombies and we watch zombie content together. So he hosts the whole thing, and I draw all of his images in the book. And then we go into the first story, which is Rotten Luck, and that's the story I was telling you about, which is two guys locked in the drunk tank at the beginning of the zombie apocalypse, and
Right.
like they just got to figure out how to get out because they'll be left for dead otherwise. So that's a three-part story, which will be told over the first three issues. So that's kind of like our main story in the book. It's a 20-page story per issue, 60 pages in total, and then the backup story, which is called Dead Eye Dick, which is about a World War II veteran who loses his eye during World War II as a sniper. And now in 1960, he's been approached by this other war veteran who's going to give him an experimental eye transplant where he's going to give him his sight back. Except it all goes wrong, and it's actually a zombie's eye that starts slowly taking over his body, giving him superpowers, but also giving him a hunger for human flesh. So
Right.
that story is like my homage to like Sin City, Frank Miller, all the old film noir movies that I love, Double Indemnity and Maltese Falcon and stuff like that. And just I even color that story the way they used to color comics in like the 50s with just the CMYK color palette where
Yep.
it's like the little dots everywhere, and I make it look like it's on old paper. So it's a really cool, special little story that I'm really happy to do. So that's what you get per issue. Issue 2, which is coming September 1st, we're doing the second part of Rotten Luck, which I'm really looking forward to, and the continuation of Dead-Eye Dick. And then once that's wrapped up, Dead-Eye Dick will continue throughout the issues, but then we'll start bringing in new stories, new talent, and yeah, I'm just really excited to see where we go because I have no plans on ever stopping this book. I want this to be ongoing. I want this to be forever, forever. So I just love it.
That's awesome. Are all the stories written by you, or are there any other writers in this anthology as well?
Every story is written by me. My brother who I co-host Batman the Animated Series podcast with. He will also be doing some co-writing with me in some stories in the future, and he edits a lot of the book as well. And by that I mean I send him a drawing I've done, and he goes, "That looks cool," and then I go, "Right, you're the editor now." So yeah, in the future, I may open up to other writers doing their little interpretations. Maybe for like a Christmas special or a holiday special or something like that, or
Right.
just a mega anthology thing. But for now, I've got a lot of stories to tell, and I can't wait to tell more of them. So for me, I'm just the main writer for now, not the main artist, but I do draw. I draw Dead-Eye Dick, which is the backup story, and I draw all the Matrix Z and variant covers. But I had the great Monica McCagney on Rotten Luck, and she just knocked it out of the park. She's tremendous.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's plenty of amazing working artists in this day and age. Like I'm constantly amazed at the quality of art put out by indie comic,
Yeah.
artists all the time. Like Lane Lloyd and so many of them, so many of them. Like
Yeah.
just like I just can't even count so many of them. Are just great.
Well, we have Alex Cormack on the cover for issue 2, and he just drew such an amazing cover of all these zombies
Yeah.
in the movie theater watching the screen, and I love it so much. So much so that I'm gonna have him draw some interiors in the future because I'm just a big fan of his. I think a lot of horror writers are fans of Alex Cormack, and I think a lot of us are fighting over trying to get him to do art for us, basically.
Yeah. Do you know Alex Moore? They're also an
No,
artist. Yeah.
I know Tony Moore, but not Alex Moore.
Alex Moore is they're very young, and they're working on they worked on a lot of Scout Comics stuff,
Okay.
and they are like more recently worked on a more noir kind of like uh like neon lighting and that kind of art a lot, and I just love their style, the way
I'll
they
have to check it
draw.
out.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. You said you're a fan of Batman the Animated Series. That's one of the
Oh yeah,
things I
big
grew up
fan.
with as well.
Yeah, so me and my brother, we do a whole podcast where we review the show, we interview the creators of the show, writers,
Wow.
directors, actors, and yeah, that's a great podcast that we have a lot of fun of. And he also uploads all these videos to TikTok and YouTube of us being really silly and doing dick and fart jokes with Batman and Superman characters. So that's really fun as well.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. Which is your favorite episode? Or maybe top
Oh,
three?
if I had to say top 3, I would say Almost Got Him, which is when all the
Mm.
villains are around a poker table talking about how they nearly all killed Batman. I love the trial as well, where all the inmates kidnap Batman and he's put on
Mm.
trial. Um, and I love the Laughing Fish as well. That's an absolute classic.
Yeah.
So it's tough. There's great. I mean, there's so many good episodes. It's really hard to put in the top 3.
Yeah. I one of my favorite episodes is actually the Two Face. It's so
Yeah.
dark and still like it affected me for some reason in a big way. I don't know, like it was just that kind of an episode where you feel really bad for the Two Face and
Yeah.
how it all turned out for him.
And of course, that's
Um,
a two-parter as well.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, that's amazing. That's amazing. You've also drawn some issues of Spawn. Do you want to talk about how your experience was on Spawn? Spawn
Yeah,
was
I mean,
actually like one of my favorite characters as well. Uh,
yeah, me too. I
till
mean,
his
yeah, I'm the biggest Tom McFarlane fan in the world. When I first started drawing, I would just used to take this book I have over here, which is like as big as a Bible. It's all of Tom McFarlane's run on the
wow,
Amazing Spider-Man, and I used to just look at
wow,
this thing constantly and just like try and copy that artwork. And I kind of found my style through that and through Greg Capullo and J. Scott Campbell, um, John Romita Jr. Because when you try and find your art style, you usually start drawing like some guy you love or some artist you love, and then you slowly. What I found was if you choose what you don't like about your favorite artist and then take inspiration from somebody else, that's how you create your own art style. So I'd be like, I love the way Tom McFarlane lays out pages, but I don't really like the way he draws ears and eyes. Oh, but I love the way Capullo draws ears and eyes. Oh, but I don't like the way he does this, and that's how you like create your own art style,
yeah,
basically.
yeah.
But yeah, Todd. I mean, what happened was is I was working on Great Lakes Avengers for Marvel, and then we got word that the book was going to be cancelled. So I was like, oh man, I got to find a new gig, and I we just drawn a cover for Great Lakes Avengers where I was doing a homage to Tom McFarlane's one of his Incredible Hulk issues where Hulk's like ripping through the Hulk text. Except I
Mm.
had a character called Big Bertha ripping through Big Bertha text, and I emailed McFarlane Studios that image and said, "Hey, big fan. If you ever want to do something one day, let me know." And I got an email a couple of days later from I think his assistant, and she was like, "Hey, Todd wants to talk to you on the phone." I was like, "What?" Like,
Wow.
just like I was like, "All right." And I remember I got the phone call and I picked it up, and it really cracked me up because I picked up the phone. And he's like, "Hey, is this the world famous Will Robson I've been hearing about?" And when I heard that line, it was really funny because I'd recently listened to a podcast where this great artist called Ryan Otley said that when he worked on Haunt, Todd called him and said, "Hey, is this the world famous Ryan Otley I've been hearing about?" So I immediately knew that was like Todd's like shtick when he calls you on the phone. And so I was like, "Hell yeah, it is, man!" And he like laughed and he said like, "Oh, I like your confidence. Like, I like people that are like, you know, usually I say that and people will get all nervous, like, oh no, I'm not, no, but I like yours." And then I said the stupidest thing in the world where I said, "Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play." And I don't know why I said that. I don't know what the phrase was. And there was this huge pause on the end of the other line of the phone. And then he went, "Anyway, so I got the Spawn book that I've been wanting to do, and I thought you'd be good for it." So yeah, so I didn't work on the main Spawn series, which I would have loved to, but you know, a lot of my stuff in Marvel, I do a lot of comedy over them, which is
Mm.
was never my intention to do. I kind of just fell into it because I guess I just have a natural talent to draw funny books, but that's because I didn't have confidence in adding like dark shadows to my work. So if you take away the dark shadows from my work, yeah, it looks super cartoony and kid friendly. Nowadays, you know, drawing Batman and Joker and stuff, and Outbreaks, I had a lot of like heavy stuff in them. So I think
Mm.
Todd saw me as a comedy guy as well, which is fine. So we you know I did his little comedy book, which I was very proud of. And look, as I showed you before, we created these little characters which he named the Spawn
Yeah.
Babies or Bum Bums, and he made a freaking toy of it, which is just like
That's amazing.
it's insane. Like this is something that I co-created with Tom McFarlane. That's a toy.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that
that is
happened so
epic.
early on in my career. Like I can everything I do now, it doesn't matter because I have this.
You have spawns of spawns.
Yes, I did. I've got a crate of them in my garage with like Tom McFarlane like McFarlane Toys branded on it. I'm like, I can't throw away
Yeah,
that cardboard box. Like that's
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And my dog wanted to rip it up. I was like, nope, that box is staying forever.
Yeah. One thing I really like about the concept of outbreaks is you're exploring more genres with zombie universe. You know, like a lot of times you actually see zombie movies either limited to, say, a survivalist or like a pure out and out horror, right? So it's amazing that you're trying to explore more genres with it. I wonder like what would comedy look like in zombie world, you know?
Yeah, I mean, well, Shaun of the Dead did the rom com very well with comedy in the zombie apocalypse, and there's a few zombie comedies out there. I mean, there's a bit of comedy in our main story, Rotten Luck. It's not super funny, but there are funny moments. But I do have some. I have a rom com planned for. I want to do a Valentine's Day special one year, and
Ah,
I have this story um, in the back of my head about you know those giant hamster balls that people go in and they roll around in. Do you know what I'm talking about?
yep,
The inflatable ones. I thought it'd be
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
funny. I thought it'd be so funny if someone went in them and then the zombie apocalypse started, and there's like fast running zombies everywhere. So I have a comedy of like a guy like in a hamster ball running through a bunch of zombies and stuff like that. So that's what I plan to do down the line.
Wow, that's incredibly funny. Nice, nice. No, that's amazing. I usually ask this to everyone. What are your top three? For you, I'll just ask related to zombies, but I ask about science fiction and or other genres that are your favorite. So maybe, what are your top three zombie properties, movies, shows, whatever, and why?
My favorite zombie movie, as I said, is Day of the Dead. I think it's the best George A. Romero film. As much as I love Dawn of the Dead and I love Night of the Living Dead, I kind of like Land of the Dead, and I'm not a big fan of Die of the Dead or what was the other one that he made? Die of the Dead and I can't remember. Island of the Dead or something like that. It wasn't good.
Yep.
But Day of the Dead is just I think it has some of the best zombie violence in any film ever. The end of that film, spoiler alert, is gruesome as hell. It's
Yeah.
people getting ripped apart by zombies. And Tom Savini, who does all the practical effects in that movie, just did an incredible job. Like for someone whose deep fear is to be like eaten alive. That's why I mean Jaws is my favorite movie. If we were just talking about movies,
Yep.
so to be eaten by a shark is like the most terrifying thing to me in the world. But zombies are even worse. So yeah, I love that movie, and there's just so much in that film. With it's like the first film ever to show someone getting bitten by a zombie, and then someone being like,
Mm.
"Well, if we remove the limb and cauterize it, maybe they won't get infected," which was, I think, pretty groundbreaking. And I think it changed the way we sort of saw zombies after that because the makeup is great, and it has all this other great stuff in it, like Bub, the smart zombie, and how George was sort of introducing the idea of like, hey, these zombies can slowly become intelligent, which is something The Walking Dead is now exploring 13 years later into their show.
Yeah.
So that's my
Yeah.
favorite movie. My favorite comic of all time is The Walking Dead. That I was picking up that book from like 2004 or 2005 because I was such a
Mm.
zombie nut. The moment I saw that there was a zombie comic on the stands, I was like, I gotta get this. Um, so I've been a mega fan of the Walking Dead comic, and I love the way it ended. It's the way I sort of always pictured it would end, and I think Robert Kirkman is just such a great long term storyteller and
Yep.
a really inspiring guy. Like that guy, the path that he's paved for himself in comics, like and
Mm.
the his journey is so inspiring to me. And then
Amazing.
if I had to say my other favorite thing, it's the Resident Evil franchise. Like Resident Evil, I'm a huge fan of. Resident Evil 2 is my favorite of all of them. I love the remake. I recently loved Resident Evil 4. I thought that was a brilliant remake of that game as well.
Mm.
And that's just pure You know, I don't. I'm not the biggest fan when they do that. They sort of move away from zombies because I just like
Mm.
I like your classic zombie. But I thought that Resident Evil 2 remake was scary as hell. I thought it was such a good
Yeah.
one.
What about the movies?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I know. I haven't seen them in a while. I have not seen. I've seen all of them, but I
Yeah.
have not seen them in a while. I've been tempted to maybe this Halloween sit down and rewatch all of them. They go on sale a lot, and I'm always like, do I spend 20 quid on these movies to watch them? And I'm like, I don't know. I bought the first one because it was on sale, so we'll see.
Yeah. To be fair, I do remember enjoying the first and second one a fair bit.
Yeah,
Like
this the second one visually had the vibe of game 2 and 3, and
yeah,
it had Jill in a classic outfit. And there's other things in the show where I mean in those movies where they do certain things. I don't know. There's also I know a lot of people hate Welcome to Raccoon City, and I had fun watching it. I thought it was
yeah.
better than the other Resident Evil movies. And then there's
Mm.
all those Resident Evil 3D movies, which are just I don't think are very good.
No. Yeah, I know that Paul is the biggest fan of the games, and he's a big gamer himself. So I don't
Who's
really
that?
know Paul W.S. Anderson, the
Oh
director
right.
of Resident Evil movies. He himself is like a big gamer, and he's a huge fan of the
Well, yeah, he
games.
made that Monster Hunter movie as well, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
He just loves putting his wife in his stuff. Which yeah, I do the same thing if I was him.
Yeah, he did make that movie Event Horizon as well, which was loosely based on Warhammer.
Oh
Um,
yes, he did make Event Horizon. I like that movie.
yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah,
It's one of its kind.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. So when's the campaign launching, and when can people expect to hear from you regarding the Kickstarter? Is it on Kickstarter? Is it on any other platform?
It's on Kickstarter. It launches September 1st, and it will run for 30 or 31 days. All of September it will run for. So I'm really there's tons of covers to choose from. There's covers by me, covers by Alex Cormack. I actually do a Resident Evil homage cover in it, where I made it look like
Nice.
the Resident Evil 2 PlayStation 2 game cover. So that's really fun. And then there's stickers, and then I've created a whole trading card game that goes with Outbreaks, which is completely playable. It's like Hearthstone basically. Um, and that was not my intention. I just originally wanted to make trading cards that look like Pokemon cards to
Yeah.
go along with the campaign. But then after I sort of made the fake Pokemon card, I was like, well, it'd be kind of cool if like you could actually play something. And then I ended up creating a whole freaking game because I'm a lunatic. So yeah, so we're gonna have
Nice.
booster packs in this campaign. So just like when you were a kid picking up baseball, basketball, and Pokemon cards. Like there's going to be a proper little booster pack you can open and have 10 cards in it. And yeah, I'm doing original sketches for it as well. So people want me to draw some zombies. Like I just drew a zombie version of Raphael from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
Yeah.
for someone's Kickstarter the other day. So if
Wow.
you can see there,
That's amazing.
there we go.
I saw this on Twitter. This is so cool.
Yeah, so I'm
That's
doing
amazing.
blank sketch covers and I'm sketching on them. So that's a backup reward, and also selling original art from the book as well. So lots to choose from. And look, I don't personally make any money off of this project. It's a pure passion project. All the
Yeah.
money goes to getting the book colored, printed, and shipped, and any money left over goes right back into the book. So better paper quality, hiring. Um, New cover artists to do covers or pay for this, that, and the others. So it is pure passion all the way.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I will definitely back this book, and I it's definitely a project to look out for in the next month or so.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for coming on the show, Will. I really appreciate your time today, and all the best on your campaign. I hope you get it funded in no time, and you go overfunded so that you get more money for your passion.
Well, I appreciate that, and thank you so much for having me on today.
Awesome. That's it for today, folks, and we'll come up with another episode very soon. See ya.
See ya.